Hi, I'm Jeannette Sutton,
And I'm Eddie Bertola.
and welcome to another episode of the Alerting Authority. As always, we encourage you to subscribe, follow, listen, and most importantly, participate in these podcasts. We want to hear your questions, concerns, ideas, problems, pain points, and really importantly, your success stories, because we love hearing those. So that we as alerting authorities can better do our jobs and make our communities safer.
And we just want to thank our sponsors as well. And we're grateful to have various sponsors. And one, of course, is HQE Systems. You've heard us mention them before. They are a veteran-owned full-service alert origination software provider. They specialize in cutting-edge technological solutions for life safety. And they can provide solutions to your pain points, the ones that, of course, we all have. They have the latest generation of outdoor sirens and indoor notifications, electronic mass notifications. And I'm fumbling, but the idea is they have it and they have the solutions that you need. And so I would just say, if you have any questions, go to a link that you're going to see on this and you can learn more about HQE and just invite you to explore all their different options.
Yeah, that's great. And we really appreciate HQE. So, Eddie, what do you have for us
Okay.
today?
So often we talk about different alerts, and we've done this. I mean, we bring up ones that we find on PBS Warn, and for those that don't know, you can actually, we say PBS Warn, it's actually warn.pbs, but everybody says PBS Warn. And if you Google PBS Warn, it will come up with the repository for wireless emergency alerts that are sent out. Why it doesn't also show the other types of messages or the emergency alert system messages, I don't know, but it should. But for right now, it shows the wireless emergency alerts. So we do this for various states and agencies. Jeannette will write about it in the Warren Room. Well, I'm putting myself out there now, okay? Because as we've mentioned before, we're still in this game, and we have opportunities to write messages. We have emergencies that happen. And I'll be the first one to say, as again, when I was doing this for the state of California, they were not always perfect, but we kept trying and we learned from each situation. And while I'm pulling up other people's messages, I also want to show something that we've done here. And this was actually very recent that we just did this over the last weekend. And it's just one of those, like, I want to put it out there so we can talk about it, so it's not just someone else. And if there are things that went well, we want to talk about it. If there's stuff that we can improve on, I want to talk about it. And so, Jeannette, as you know, I was texting you this weekend saying, hey, guess what? This just happened. So what I would like to do is, I live in Benton County, Arkansas. Moved from California, and I really like it. For anybody who is looking for Benton County, great place to live. I want to pull up a couple instances where, and really just two specific, that Benton County has sent out a wireless emergency alert. And one of them is from Benton County, and the other is from, and I know we're going to get comments on this because I have probably done 1,000 myself, but Pea Ridge, Arkansas. It's a real place, okay? And I am happy to call it home. It's just a little town, but Pea Ridge, Arkansas. So think going from, state of California, 45 million plus, to Pea Ridge, Arkansas, right around 11 or 12,000 people. Totally different demographics and densities of population, but tools should be very similar, at least have access to. And it's been interesting. So what I did is I have two messages. One of them is from somewhere else in the county, and then one is specifically in our tiny little town of Pea Ridge, Arkansas. And just to give you a little background with it, I'd love to get your thoughts, Jeannette, on what you see.
Okay.
And hopefully it's going to be one of those, it's like, well, on this one, I can see there really hasn't been a lot of training. On this one, hopefully hint hint on ours, I'm hoping you're like, this is where we need to go. This is better. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but hopefully you'll be able to see a difference. Are you up for it?
I'm up for it. Now, if you hadn't given all that introduction and you just shown me the two messages and made me guess which one you had written, that would have been even better set up.
Oh, I would not do that. I can't do that because I'd be like, oh no. Hopefully, as you see it, I hope you're gonna be able to tell pretty quickly. Um, and again, this isn't trying to knock another agency or anything else. I just want you to see, hopefully, when you go through the training that we talk about, the difference in the type and quality of message that you can see. So
The training really does make a difference when you get training from people who have studied how to do this well and they're not just guessing and going off their gut. It makes a huge difference in the way those messages are structured and the kind of contents that are included. So, and a lot I think, as you know, and as our listeners know, a lot of people have not had the opportunity to get training. And I hope that what you're going to show is how that appears very differently in
I know, and
messages.
it's one of those now. I'm hoping it goes according to the plan in my head here, but we're going to experience this together. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen of a live message that went out, and so it's populating. So it's now on the screen. For those that are on YouTube, you can see it, but for everybody who's just listening, this is not a 90 character message, and I want to emphasize that because of what I'm going to read. If you were to look at this message later, um, and you pull up the 360 and the 90, they're identical. Okay, so as I go over this, so this is the message. It went out, and this is what it says: missing child alert. Period. If you have information, call 479, and then it gives the rest of the phone number. There is no part two. So Jeannette, can you guess, was this my message or not?
Well, I'm going to say that it's not your message because you have been through my training probably 10 times now, and also given trainings. We've conducted trainings together. And so, no, this is probably not your message. I think that for people who received this message, they would have been a little concerned because there's not a lot of information in here that's useful. Um,
No, I'm there
yeah,
with you.
it,
It essentially
it's
identifies there's an issue, and if you have information,
right,
call. But
right.
we talk about the sky is falling. Um, there's a missing child alert. You don't know where this is taking place. Number one, and is it next door? Is it in your area? Is it somewhere in a different state, and you're just getting this as like bleed over? You don't know. Um,
Right.
can I
Well,
tell
and
you one of like some? Oh, what? Go ahead.
there's just absolutely nothing about the missing child included in the message. I wouldn't know what kind of information I would be calling that phone number about. I'm sure that they're assuming that people are making a personal judgment that the information they would call about is information about the missing child. But I, boy,
Almost at a loss
sometimes
of words.
I am, because there's just so much information that's missing from this particular alert to make it effective. Um, we don't know who sent the message. We don't know anything about the missing child who's missing, their age, their gender, their height, their race, their hair color, where
Yeah.
they were when they were last seen. We don't know any of that information, and if they're particularly vulnerable, we don't know about that. Um, it, we don't know if they want us to go out looking for the child or if we just have information to call. It's a peculiar message because it provides no information with an assumption that people know that they're supposed to call with information.
But that's the thing is, how do you know if you have information about this case?
That
It's, again, missing child alert. If you have information, call, and then it goes on. Um, I want to throw one little, um, I don't know, I want to qualify it a little more because there is something really interesting about this one. And you and I have talked
Mhm.
about it. We've seen it in other cases. When you look at the alert that's sent, again, PBS Warn is a great place to get this information. There is actually additional information that is provided later on, but it doesn't make it into the alert. And so the sheriff's department, who facilitates this investigation and who's sending this, they actually put in additional information, the age of the child, some other information. Um, but again, it doesn't make it into the WEA.
So that would be really useful information to have. And I think that this goes back to what you were talking about initially about training. And, we were talking about training for the contents of the message about what you should include. But in this case, if there is additional information and it's not showing up in the text of the message, this is training on your software and how to input the information into the right fields in your software so that it shows up on a person's screen when they open that message. And so they may have written a really great instruction field in their software, but if they don't recognize that that information will not be visible to the person on their phone, then they need that training too. So anybody who's writing these messages needs to be aware of how their software differs from another agency's software because every platform has different ways to put information in and it shows up differently on phones, and then different devices information shows up differently. And it's a very complicated system, and we focus a lot on the message contents, but the system can make it very challenging for people to put the right information in because of the way that it's designed for inputting information. So what's the additional information they put in the instructions?
So the additional information that they put in, let me go to it here. They put in the source. It's Benton County Sheriff's Office. They're seeking information
Okay.
on a missing 6-year-old male child last seen, and they give the specific road in the community of Gentry, Arkansas. And so then it says, if you have any additional information, please, and then it gives, the same type of phone number.
Okay. So it gives us an age
Yeah.
and a general location of where that child was last seen.
And again, there was a
That's
polygon set up. I mean, there were a lot of components, but in the actual message, it just didn't have that information. One thing that I've
right.
seen that's pretty interesting, at least for me, that as we see these, is I will see people that will write a 90-character message and then they just copy and paste it into the 360 because I don't know if it's in their mind. They're like, timing. It's the one I need to write. It's required still. I do a 90-character message, cut and paste, put it in 360, and send it. And again, whether or not 10 years ago that was the best practice because the majority of phones didn't get it or whatever you may have been thinking, we need to adjust because the vast majority, and we're talking over 95% of cellular devices can receive 360 characters. You need to provide more info. Take those few
Mhm.
minutes and put it in. And this is where I plug again and say, if you have done your due diligence and you have templates that are 80% done, that have all of the key components of a complete message, then all you have to do is put that variable information that is specific to the case and get it in there, and you're done. Um, it doesn't have to be this arduous process. And if you're thinking it is, then we need to do some more training because it's not. And you're just missing all this key information. But I don't know if you've seen that before. Like I said, I know a lot of people do the cut and paste and they just do one message.
Mhm. We see it a lot. When we evaluated a decade of wireless emergency alerts, the first decade that WEA was enabled, we saw it frequently that it was exactly the same message in both fields. And really, there's no reason for doing it that way other than the time or maybe a lack of awareness. So let us tell you right now that if you are not aware that the 360 character message can be longer and more detailed, and that it is available to the majority of phones, you now know, and make use of that, because those additional characters, you can put a lot of information into it, and it also gives people a lot more guidance and information about the hazard, or in this case, a missing person, that can help them to help you to find the person that you are trying to find.
100%.
All right, Eddie, I want to see the other message.
Okay. I tell you, it's easy to talk about other people's messages, right? But then to put yours out there. So I'm just getting ready to share it. I'm expanding it so it's a little easier to
Okay.
see. And go ahead and share the screen. And I want to thank those within the Pea Ridge Police Department who absolutely helped with this case. And here we go. All right.
All right.
I'm going to read it to you. It just hit the screen. This is the 360 character message. And it says Pea Ridge Police Department, missing teen. Then it gives the name, which we've blocked out the name. Also the specific age. But it did give a name and age of year old, white male, brown shoulder length hair, white shirt, black pants. Last seen at Pea Ridge High School at 5 p.m. Possibly driving a red Ford pickup, Arkansas, and it gives the license plate with a silver camper shell. If seen, immediately call 911. Updates at, and then it gives the link. And that's the message that we sent out. Now, when crafting this message, different things, we talked about, we thought about. I was not in a position to access the templates in this situation because I wasn't technically working for this one. I assisted because there were some other things, and I found myself in that place. So I went, just the backstory, because I've said I'm not going to do this, but I ended up doing it. I've said in a real case, I'm not going to log on to the MDD. I'm going to go templates because minutes matter. Minutes matter. Well, minutes still matter. I wasn't in a position to access because I didn't have any of the. I didn't have access to the computer at the time, but I had my phone. And I knew what was on my phone, and I actually went and I accessed the message design dashboard via the internet. And thankfully, I had my login, I had everything, and that wonderful or not so wonderful, code you have to put in for a multi-factor, but it all worked. And I was like, guys, shoot out the information to me just real quick. And they're around there, they're telling me this is what it is. We built this message very, very quickly and looked through it. And the message design dashboard, it checked our URL link to make sure it was still good and it was taking people where we wanted. We followed what it said as far as when it went to the source, then it went to, what is actually happening, the hazard. So we had a missing teen. We followed everything pretty much verbatim of what it recommended. And it was very easy. And then the other part, when we were done, we hit create 90 character message, and it took what we had and it basically listed out the quick important things and asked us if we wanted to put the Facebook link in, yes. And we were done. I was honestly very surprised with how easy it was even accessing the message design dashboard during the investigation. Which, if you remember, Jeannette, I was
Mhm.
like, I just want templates because I don't want to have to deal with that. It wasn't that bad at all. And I ended up having multiple officers around me looking, saying, "That's it. That's easy. Like it provides us all these step by steps." And I'm like, "Yeah." And it's when you get a bunch of cops around that are trying to watch how this all works. It's really funny because they're all very very invested in trying to recover this teen. Um,
Mhm.
anyway, so this message went out, and it went out in the evening. And again, you can find it. This is all on PBS Warren if you want to, um, but it went out in the evening. And before I talk about kind of what happened, what's your take on this?
So I'm gonna read it again
Uh huh.
for everybody who's just listening, because I want you to really hear how different it is compared to the first message that we were talking about. This one says, Pea Ridge Police Department, missing teen, name, year old, white male, brown shoulder-length hair, white shirt, black pants. Last seen at Pea Ridge High School at 5 p.m., possibly driving a red Ford pickup, Arkansas license plate number, with a silver camper shell. If seen, immediately call 911. Updates at www. And then a Facebook link. And Eddie, this is a complete message. It's it's well structured. It follows the MDD and the workflow that was laid out for it. Um, I love that it also includes the use of all caps to draw your eyes to specific parts of the message. The things that are in all caps are the words missing teen, last seen, if seen, and updates. And if you were to see this as a message, it looks like just a big block of text, but those pieces of content that are in all caps helps to draw your eyes to those specific words because they're different. It also just breaks up the text a little bit and shows you that there's different parts to the message. It's easier to read. Um, but it's complete. It gives you enough specific information with key identifiers for the person that is missing and also their vehicle, that people can be really helpful because you've given them details. You even gave a local landmark, the high school, and the timing of 5 p.m., which helps people to make sense of the location and when they were last seen, and get a real sense of whether they might still be local or not. So I really appreciate how quickly this was written and how complete it is. Um, and Yeah, it's really like night and day compared to the other message. It's very clearly including all of the evidence-based guidance that we've been providing to alerting authorities for the last, well, for WEA and for recently for the last few years since we started developing the warning lexicon and the message design dashboard. It integrates all of those things. So well
Well,
done.
full disclosure, for anybody who's like, "Wow, he knew how to put the caps in," or anything else. No, like I mean, I do because I've been to the training, but the message design dashboard prompts you. It puts the capitals where it needs to happen because we don't
Mhm.
want a message that's in all caps. So let me just, yeah, this is not in all caps. This is written through normal script, but there are sections, just as she said, that are in all caps to help kind of guide your eyes. And that's not because, wow, Eddie Bertola, you know how to put in all caps. It's because I follow the research, and the message design dashboard set it up. And all I had
Mhm.
to do was plug in the components that we needed to put in that were specific to this. One
Yeah.
thing that we actually had a quick discussion of at the police department was the year. It's the year, make, model of the vehicle, right? We put in this one red Ford pickup. We didn't put you know 2004 Ford Ranger or anything like that. And not that it was that. I'm just giving examples. We went with just very basic. And a lot of that's come from discussions that I know, Jeanette, we've had, that when we worked with New York State Police and New York State Missing Person Clearinghouse, I mean, that we talked about. It's, do people really know the difference between a 97 and a 2001? Pick your, model of a car. Um,
Right.
and so anyway, we went with this. The part that I really, really appreciated is when the officer told me, and it was one of many that were working this thing has a silver camper shell. That single piece basically prevented so many other phone calls and everything else of, hey, there's a red Ford pickup, there's a red Ford pickup, there's a red Ford pickup. Because it was so unique to say there's a silver camper shell on a red Ford pickup. That really
Mm,
narrows it down. And that was actually one of the things that led to the sighting of the vehicle. So
mm,
there's that. And then, I appreciated the shoulder length hair because, it's a white male with brown hair. Okay. Um, there's a lot of different ways, but when you say shoulder length hair, that is again a unique quality that can help us to identify who we're looking for. So those are
mhm,
just 2 points that I liked in
mhm.
the message.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that people frequently ask me is about the use of URLs and where people should be sent for additional information. And in this case, they use the Facebook as their place of sharing additional updated information. And I think that including a URL anytime you have the ability to do so is a good idea because people are going to look for the additional information. And it's better for them to go online than to be calling 911 for additional information because it just overwhelms the call centers. But I think one of the challenges that we have of using social media as our landing site for people to get additional information is that in many cases they have to be logged in to be able to access that information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a drawback of using Facebook or one of the other social media sites, but um, it's also a great thing to use that if it is your only avenue for directing people to additional information.
And I appreciate you pointing that out. One thing that I know, and I have to give props to the city of Pea Ridge. I mean, it is a small community in the South, right? In Arkansas, but it is very progressive with their desire to utilize technology and leverage it appropriately. There is great leadership, and they're like, "What do we need to do? What do we need to do?" And I've been in discussions with them um, because they're really open. It's again great place to live. Um, they know that this is not the best place to send them to because just for everything that Jeannette said. And so there are discussions, well, how can we put information on a city website or something that we can update it quickly enough to say, this is where you can go. So we can have that .gov. Um, it's not, I was going to say prefix, but a .gov ending. And someone's going to
Mhm.
say, this is the term. Uh, but to give a little more credibility to help people feel better with it. Um, and then the other part is if we were going to use a URL shortener, and all those things are in
Mhm.
current discussions, but we just didn't have them ready, and they're still not quite ready. And so, with all of that said, the 360 character message still gives us room to put the full link in. And so people can see it is Facebook and it does go to the Pea Ridge Police Department. And what's really fun about our community is it is a Facebook or a very meta community. I cannot tell you. It is, if you want to know something, you go to one of the city, pages or groups and you'll find it. Um, and so it's just as she said, there are even better ways that I'm hoping we will get to for that. But it was really fun to be able to put it on and they can actually see updates as they're happening, as we're getting the information. So yeah, great point.
I think, yeah, well, overall, I think it's a great message. And what's really important about using the message design dashboard for this particular message is the only place that you would get this recommended workflow is in the MDD for a missing person message, because we haven't yet published the articles that outline the specific guidance that we have identified from our research. So, if people are really interested in learning more about how to write an effective warning alert message for a missing person, I really encourage them to reach out to us at the Alerting Authority. And you can always go to the Warn Room, where I write about all kinds of messages that are found on PBS Warn, and sometimes they're in other places that people send them to me. But I talk about them, I write about them, I show how we can apply evidence-based guidance to improve them, and I direct people to the research that shows why the recommendations that we are making, why they are important and how they work effectively. So please take a moment to check out the Warn Room if you want to learn more about this. And we'll be writing a lot more about missing persons research as our studies continue to be published. And I'm pretty certain that in the future we'll write some guidance documents on how to do the effective messaging for Amber Alerts and all the other 40 kinds of missing persons alerts that are out there.
I know it
So
changes
Eddie,
every
do you have
legislative session.
I know. It does change. There's so many of them. Did you send out an additional message after that first message was
Good
sent?
question. It's one thing that, we've talked about. And again, thankful to actual research about post alert messages. And, you might hear people call them all clear or other things, right? But there are some hazards where, it may not be all clear, but it's still, post alert. And that was a discussion that I had with a supervisor in the police department, because I guess here's a little more to the story is, well, people got the message, and thankfully there were multiple potential sightings because the community was involved. But again, how do you check? And honestly, they didn't have all the information. So they're calling in potential sightings. But then as you investigate it a little bit, it's a different car, or it's, not the right person. And to the community's benefit, I mean, they were trying really hard. So once this information got sent out and they were given, that actionable type or that vetted information, calls came in. And there was a specific call that came in to say, hey, we believe we see this, and it gave a location. And so, law enforcement got that information, through dispatch, and went out and actually recovered the person safely. And it's just one of those things. This did not take longer than, 20 minutes to get that type of feedback from the community. And all it takes is, the right tools in the right hands in the right moment, right? And it worked. And so information was provided, law enforcement responded, the person was recovered, and they're now able to get, all the different support and help that they need for that. So great ending. But then how does the community know that we're done? Right?
It's a
And
good
the
question.
quick discussion, and thankfully we have these discussions in advance. This is not an example of, hey, well, let's get the mayor, the chief, a lieutenant, supervisors, a captain involved, and say, how should we let the public know? That is not the time. Thankfully, we've talked about this. And while we do update our, Facebook page or something like that, which we did, well, we also have people that are concerned within the community to say, has this concluded? The feeling is real. And so to answer your question, yes, we did a post alert message. And as soon as we had the confirmed identity of our missing person, then we knew that we could do that post alert. And so I'll pull it up for you now if you'd like to see it.
I'd love to see it.
Okay.
We talk about warnings as the message that inspires people to act, and then the post alert message as the one that closes that communication loop. And not only does it tell people that they can stop what they were doing or resume what they want were doing previously. But it also gives them a sense of closure, and it really demonstrates that the organization that was initiating the action, that they are looking out for the people who have received the message. And it's messages that come across as WEA are loud and disruptive, and in some cases they really cause people to be highly concerned. And in a case like this, where the whole community is out looking for this missing teen, it would be really important for them to know that the person has been found. So
Well, and I've been
here
involved
you've
in
got the
different,
message up.
yeah, I just pulled it up right now. So I've been involved in different searches where we locate somebody, and then it is literally hours later when other people who have been searching that whole time did not hear that the person's been located, and they have been
Mhm.
searching their sector or assigned area continuously, and for all the right reasons. Um, but they just weren't told. And so having that closure, as Jeannette said, to let people know, you can stand down. It's all of that, the feeling like we can start to relax a little bit. So this is the message that was
Mhm.
sent, and I'll just read it to you. It was Pea Ridge Police Department. The search for the missing teen in Pea Ridge has ended. They have been located safely. We want to thank the community for your help. That's all it says. We didn't go into the details of, the aftercare or, all of those things because, I mean, frankly, it's still very personal. And while we did
Mhm.
reach out and say, community, we need your help, we also, once we're able to locate them, really try and protect the privacy of the situation because it is very sensitive. And um, it's interesting. We got so many responses through Facebook and other things from this message. I'd almost say as much, if not more, than the first message. Because what
Hmm.
people responded was, prayers and thank you, and I can go to sleep, and I feel so much better that they're found, or blessings. Very pro law enforcement, very pro community. Um, like you notice here where I've seen it, and I won't give the specific agency, but this was in California. It was not the California Highway Patrol. It was one that we supported, and it was a picture of them with the missing person. And this community agency basically said, "We're here. We found them, and we're here to protect you." And they took all the credit. When as Jeannette, you talk about, I try to hold people accountable in a positive way, but really to understand the story. I reached out and I said, okay, I appreciate you taking that little selfie moment. I mean, that's fine if you want that picture, but the community is the one that provided that tip and that lead. It was somebody who received the message, who acted appropriately and called it in. And yes, your agency responded to the location that the person identified, but let's give credit to that community, to that response, um, where you may
Mhm.
get to be the finder, but the real thanks and kudos should go to that community support. And so that's one thing that we really
Mhm.
tried to talk about in here. Because yes, it was an amazing Pea Ridge officer who got there quickly and recovered the person. Um, but it was the community involvement that made that happen, if that makes sense.
It sure does, and I think that the feeling of relief that people were writing about in on the Facebook page, that the just the appreciation for knowing how the event had ended, um, was, that's a real testament to closing that loop so that people could rest and not remain concerned or engaged in ongoing safe searching. So this is a great example of why it's important to close the loop, and also a great example of how to do it well. So thanks to Pea Ridge Police Department for doing this and providing a really great example for how to write a good message and how to close it out. Um, Now, I assume that things would have been a little bit different had the person not been located. But maybe that's a conversation for another time.
No, absolutely. And, we can get in talks too about, let's say the person was located and they were not located safely, about how to
Hmm.
write that type of message. Because it's still important to let the community know, like, you don't need to search anymore. We have recovered the person, or we have, located them. Um, and there will be questions, but helping people to come down from that level of I'm out there actively searching or actively worrying, with this one, because it was a success all the way around. We really wanted to highlight and give gratitude to the community and let them know that they were located safely. Um,
Hmm.
Also, again, you want to be careful about putting too much information in, even if they were located safely, about, they're receiving medical care or they're doing all these things. Try to keep it as private and respect the individual, because the individual is recovered safely and they have a whole life ahead of them, and we don't want them to be defined from this one instance, right?
Hmm.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. I really, I mean, we talk about it, and again, we're still in the game and we're still doing this, and that's why I don't mind putting my offering on the table that we can talk about. And maybe I just have become an even bigger supporter of this, because you should be able to see. And both of the alerts I showed you, the other one that happened in Benton County, happened this year. It's not one from, 5 years ago or whatever. It was honestly just a few months prior. And just to see the difference. So if you live in one community or you live in, Pea Ridge where we sent the other one, I would imagine, and I don't have to imagine on the Pea Ridge one because I got a lot of feedback, the feeling of what's happening or confidence in the agency that they're doing everything they can.
Well, you talked a little bit about us working with the New York State Police and the New York State Missing Persons Clearinghouse, and I want to emphasize as we wrap up our discussion today that we are available to provide that kind of help and training to other agencies, other state agencies, other local agencies, because this is information that we've been working on through research, and then also Eddie through years and years of practical and lived experience in California with the Highway Patrol and the Amber Coordinator position. We can help. We can help you with training, with message design and development, with developing best practices and workflows for missing persons alerts, for thinking through some of those key questions about how do you describe the vehicle? What kind of information do you keep private? What kind of information is really important to include in a message so it's specific and actionable? And we can help to provide that guidance to you. So please, reach out to us as if you're thinking about improving your messages and your policies. We are available to help, and we'd love to come alongside you and be a partner in that.
No, 100%. And again, I appreciated all the time that I had in California where I was able to learn quite a bit. I love the fact that I'm in Pea Ridge, Arkansas, and our police department is small, um, but very powerful. And just I really appreciate the leadership and them being open, and just I really think you will see more about Pea Ridge PD, because they hopefully will become the standard with how all this messaging happens. Um, and I would say I know we have other agencies too. I'll say one of the leaders for it. And again, if it can happen in a small police department, it can be that much more impactful in the larger communities. So I'm grateful for all of that. And just as Jeanette said, we're here to help. We are here, um, to respond to your emergencies, hopefully before, proactively. That is the key. And let's help you just feel so much more prepared. So when this does happen, you're ready to go. And I hope to hear more about, I know we're going to get comments all about Pea Ridge and how to move here. Um, but if there are comments in there about your own success stories or pain points, please let us know so that we can address it. Because again, when you're writing that message and you have to hit that button to go live, We want you to feel as empowered and confident as possible. So as we end this, again, every second has a story. This last one was mine, and we hope to hear yours and be a part of it with you. So we'll see you on the next one.